So I thought I'd start just taking a little snapshot of, all right, what's happened the past 50 years? We're celebrating 50 years of an industrial museum, so let's take a look at what's happened through Attleboro over time. So we can see that over time, this city has grown tremendously. Okay? I mean, started off back in the early days here when we were primarily a manufacturing area, and one of the biggest ones, of course, being the jewelry capital of the world. And most of the population was concentrated in the city as we know it right now, the city proper. As time went on, the population grew. Right? A lot of it happened right after World War II, which happened basically in almost every community, where more and more people were buying homes and the suburbs were being more populated. So what happens is that there was a tremendous housing boom throughout many areas, and particularly in Attleboro. Now this little snapshot here shows part of the boom here that happened from the 1970 to 1990. And that happens to be when my wife and I moved here, right? in 1986. But as Attleboro kind of moved away from being primarily a manufacturing area, it attracted more people with its transportation, ease of transportation to Boston and Providence, I-95, everything opening up, which sort of expanded, allowed people to move around a lot more freely. Attleboro became a very desirable place to live. And I'll have to say that back when I bought our house, it was one of the more affordable places to live in Massachusetts too. So that all kind of puts a bit of a strain though on resources. So again, we have this transition from being primarily a manufacturing area to a service-based industries in this area. Nonetheless, if you look at Attleboro, 22% of the jobs in Attleboro itself are still in manufacturing, which is higher than almost all other communities in Massachusetts. So we still maintained that core industries in our area. But again, as the population grew and housing expanded, 85% of the residents in this city work outside of Attleboro. Again, attesting to the better mobility that we have around here. So increasing population and housing growth has its impacts though. So there's infrastructure impacts. So as you bring in more people, bring in more buildings, more houses, there's a greater demand for energy, there's greater demand for utilities like water and electricity, and municipal services. Right? And as you grow and as you grow quickly, it's hard to keep up with all of this and still maintain a sustainable environment that you in the city itself. So it puts stress on things. There's economic impacts also. So again, as things grow, costs increase. And then you have more waste to deal with. You have to deal with removal of waste. And as we've seen recently with the more persistent flooding and between drought and flooding, insurances. We need to be able to prepare more for catastrophic events. And so we all have seen our insurances go up. Then there's the environmental impacts which go beyond Attleboro. This is happening all over the world. Climate change impacts everybody, everywhere, right? There's no getting around it. And what we've seen in this area is more increased rainfall happening in greater volumes in a shorter amount of time. I used to love to see, your half inch of rain falling and watering my grass in my garden. But now in these big storms that happen all of a sudden, you find out that the water is pooling. My garden is a lake now instead of a garden. And so all these environmental impacts are causing problems. And then with greater growth, we have this issue of wetland impingement. And when you think about it, back when all the housing boom was going on, wetlands were considered more of a nuisance than they were any important part of your ecosystem. And builders and people, ourselves, we we wanted to fill them in so we had more room to do things and be able to expand. But we're finding now that wetlands are an important part of our environment, particularly in Attleboro, because it's such a low, it's a low ground area. So looking at all these impacts and stuff like that, the question that comes up is this trajectory that we're on right now sustainable? Now we could have a whole debate on that, but we think not. So hence the Attleboro Sustainability Commission. So this is the latest commission to come out of the city, and we're now a year and a half old. There are 9 volunteers that serve on this committee. We're all Attleboro residents. And our charter, our role here is to do research and to make recommendations to try to make the city more sustainable. So, we can't pass laws, but we can make recommendations. And we do this to the mayor, and we make the recommendations to the city council also. Now, we use this strategic guide that we call the Sustainability Master Plan. This was called earlier it was called an Environmental Master Plan. This master plan was something that was created by a bunch of private citizens within the city. And it wasn't sponsored by anybody. They were concerned citizens. And they put together an entire plan on how to make the city more sustainable and resilient. And we use this as our guidepost, and the city and the mayor have endorsed this. They support this, and so we're using this again as our guide. So it consists of 6 principal focus areas. So sustainable growth, that's commercial as well as residential. Water security, which includes your fresh water, your storm water, and your wastewater. Waste reduction, again, trying to reduce the waste. Conservation, of course. Promoting renewable energy. And then the final one, which kind of encompasses all of these, is education and participation. We believe that an informed public will be able to react to these recommendations and be able to embrace them a lot better if they see what's in it for them. I mean, part of the education is what we're doing right here. Okay, so, all right. So, one question everybody asks is, well, what the heck is sustainability? And it's simply, it's a balancing act. It's balancing consumption with your ability to replace what you consume. All right? Pure and simple. Any questions on that? And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them while I'm going on. Now, sustainability pays. Now, those actions that cost money to be sustainable will cost, this level of cost. To be resilient, meaning be able to react and be able to prepare for catastrophic problems or environmental problems, has a cost along with it. And the status quo of just, okay, well, we have a problem, we had a flood, we need to fix it. We're not going to do anything about the root cause of this thing, we're just going to fix it. So over time, you find out that being sustainable costs you less in the long run. And since we're in the Industrial Museum and we're talking about business, it makes business sense also. Particularly in this community here in the local area, we've got companies that have embraced sustainability, and it's paid off for them. So you got Sensata, you've got Reeves, and Sturdy, which by the way, Sturdy is the largest employer in the city right now. And you think back 50 years, you had a lot of your manufacturing, and they were the bulk of the employment. But now, Sturdy, we're becoming a healthcare center.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many of Sturdy's employees live within the city? Do we know how many are living here? Are they commuting?
Well, they are all commuting in. Yeah, we're importing that.
Yeah. But now we have the new high school and everything, and we can maybe attract those employees there.
Yeah. Well, no, the development we're doing, particularly the high school, it's become a shining light down the hill there, right? And the next bullet here is on the high school itself. Their career and technical education concentration there, they deal with all kinds of educating and trying to get kids to go into the trades and things of that nature. They actually have part of their automotive training is focusing on how to repair and maintain electric vehicles. So again, the schools themselves are starting to get involved in this thing. And we've tried to have a presence within the schools also, and you'll see some other examples of that also. And sustainability is something that's popular. If you look on Indeed right now, there are 140 jobs that advertise they're looking for people for jobs that are in the areas of sustainability. Okay? And it's not just our area. You've got a lot of the businesses and a lot of the corporations that we deal with every day that have made sustainability part of their major goals. Okay? Now, so, what can businesses do to become more sustainable? It all starts from the top, right? If sustainability isn't something that the corporate heads promote and believe and endorse, then it ain't going to happen. So having that as part of the business vision is important. Seeking ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance certification. It's another way of bringing sustainability into the corporate world. One idea is get your employees involved. Give them awards for promoting or suggesting sustainable actions. Get away from hard copies. Everyone's got a computer, they got a phone. Everything can be digital nowadays. Send it out digitally. Waste. Waste is everywhere, and it's very important to be able to reduce it. So any way that a business can reduce their waste is a good thing. And then practicing the 3 R's, the repurposing, the reuse, and recycling of materials. Okay? And then of course, renewable energy sources, embracing more solar, wind, and geothermal. Right? Now, one example I wanted to bring up here, and this is something that I don't know if any of you are involved and subscribe to the Black Earth composting. Anyone in here do that? Okay. Well, it's a small company that started up in Gloucester about 20 years ago, and they started just promoting compost pickup. They do industrial composting, not the stuff you do in your backyard, right? And they have a program in Attleboro also. I'm in on it, and there's a bunch of other people in on it also. But when you think about it, in the food service industry, how much food is being wasted? I think, Mike, you can help me out here. I think it's what, a third of waste that goes into our trash is stuff that can be composted. All right, so if some restaurants around here, be it food prep, be it waste, people that don't eat, the Black Earth has this program here. Will depending on the volume that you produce, they will pick up one every day or at whatever frequency you need. They cater to this. They have these big bins that come as part of the service, and they also will advertise in your community to saying that here's this from McDonald's or Banditos or whatever. We're into sustainability, and we compost all of our waste food. So it's really something to think about. Now, there's also sustainability actions we can do at home, right? This is not something that certain people do. It's just what we all have to do. And so the first bullet here is what I taken from a book that I read recently, that it's called Less is More by Jason Hickel. And he introduces the Lagom principle. And it really is basically gets down to mindful consumption. And the example he uses, there's a friend of his in Sweden that he went to visit, and he was going through the house, and he noticed that this person only had 2 towels for the shower or the bath. And he goes, "Why do you only have 2 towels?" And the friend replied saying, "Well, I use one, and when that's dirty, I use the other. I clean the one that's dirty. I don't need a dozen towels. I need 2 towels. So just thinking of, you don't need to consume. Just think about what it is that you're consuming. And then the 3 R's, we can all do this. We can reduce what we buy and what we use, what we have that no longer has its initial use, we can reuse it. I use all my plastic buckets to water my plants all around the house. And then, recycling, which really is kind of the last thing. Try to reduce, try to reuse, and recycle is the last resort. Composting, we just mentioned that. Plant-rich diets, all right, get away from meat. It's healthier for you too. And then you can easily compost what you don't eat. Mass Save has an enormous amount of different programs that they advertise and give you, credits and actually savings for making improvements using LED lights, things of that nature, heat pumps and things like that. Single-use plastics, okay, that's another huge waste maker, okay? And so the use of tote bags when you go out shopping, using packaging that is compostable is another way to do that. And there's just so many ways of being able to think about plastics that you can't get away from. I mean, there's no way around it. But try to avoid single-use plastics. And then, greeting cards. Everybody emails. You can do those things for Christmas and any other time. All right? Now, what can municipalities do? They can, one of the things that, and actually Attleboro has done right now, is achieve the Tree City status, which is a recognition from the Arbor Day Foundation. And what that is that these are communities that make planting trees and maintaining trees and conserving forested areas a priority for them. And they have actually departments within the municipality that is in charge of and has responsibility for deforestation and conservation. Hiring a sustainability director. There are several communities in Massachusetts right now that have a position in their municipality that's called sustainability director. Their job is to promote and to promote sustainability actions and to make recommendations. We're kind of doing that with the Sustainability Commission, but we're all volunteers. Renewable electricity supply. There's plenty of that out there. And you can see, some municipalities that have big solar arrays on top of their buildings or in their parking lots. One thing I'll bring up is my wife and I were in Pittsburgh recently visiting the Phipps Museum. And that museum right there is, over time, they have become 100% sustainable on their own. Between having solar panels, between having geothermal wells, recycling all and recycling all the water and their wastewater. Their pavement in their parking lots is all permeable type of pavement, so you don't have all the runoff that you get from asphalt and stuff like that. And they have achieved zero reliability on external sources for their energy. It's fantastic. Municipalities can work to increase their wetland buffers. And wetlands, they filter water. They're a carbon sink. They support wildlife. All kinds of advantages to having wetlands. And then the state itself, Massachusetts, has a carbon neutral roadmap. And adhering to that and subscribing to that is something that municipalities can do. Now, what have we done, the commission ourselves? So again, I mentioned that we make recommendations based on the research that we do. So we've been in existence, like I said, for 1.5 years. The recommendations we've completed, Attleboro is now, we recommended Attleboro be a tree city. They have now achieved that, so that's great. This idea of the pocket forest or the Miyawaki forest, it's an idea of planting trees in in a densely packed area that grow very quickly, that provide shade, they provide a carbon sink, they soak up groundwater, and they provide shade. So this is something that the Conservation Commission, the City Conservation Commission, is now starting to implement. And I think the first one going in is going to be by the high school right now, I believe. Is it, Mike, by the high school? Yeah. So that's in progress. The commission itself, we have a presence on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a recommended action list that's over 100, almost 200, 250 recommended things to do. So, we have a huge backlog of things that we're going to be trying to promote over time. And now over at the high school again, they have this freight farm. And what they've taken are these, it's basically a semi-tractor trailer type of container. And they plant things. They can plant lettuce, they can plant beans, they can plant all kinds of things. And they have the grow lights and everything within them, so they have their own, what they call their freight farm. Okay? And other things we got in progress, I'm in charge of communication and education, so I'm targeting to have a quarterly newsletter come out on a seasonal basis. So we're looking forward to launching with the fall edition. And if anyone is interested in being part of that and being a recipient of that newsletter, please sign up for it. We have a little table over there where we can take your names. Wetland buffer expansion, we've done a complete study on this, and we're making recommendations to the city on how we can expand the wetland buffer in town. And again, back at the high school, think about when you were back in high school in the cafeteria, how much food got wasted, right? So we're working with the high school right now to try to get a food composting program in place, right? Things in planning, making the city center more bicycle friendly with bike lanes, with bike racks and things of that nature. Putting together and working on a green building checklist. What buildings can do to become more energy efficient and to utilize green energy more effectively. And just lately, happened last month, I believe, we had gathered together or started this gathering other organizations around the city that are interested in the environment, are interested in sustainability in Attleboro. I mean, this includes the folks like the 10 Mile River Coalition, ourselves, the Historical Society, the senior centers and things like that. All this who have been doing little bits of things around to try to make the community a better place to live in. We're all going to try to pool our resources together, and instead of doing little things in isolation from one another, be able to do them collectively. Yep.
So when you did the Tree City USA designation, is part of that like when I've noticed a couple of developments going in the city, and they are just cutting every single tree down, not leaving even one up near the house for shade or anything. Is there any action that's in the city right now, either from your group or other groups, so that that goes in the developer can only cut a third or a half of the trees that are on that forested property?
Yeah. Well, there is a city ordinance for tree cutting on public land. Okay, there isn't one on private land yet, but we're recommending that something be done to it. In fact, there are some city councilors who are very much in favor of this. So hopefully over time we'll get some sort of ordinance that will limit the amount of cutting that gets done during a.
There may not be any other land to cut.
No, I mean, that's really important. I mean, you clear cut something, now you're talking about flooding, you're talking about erosion, you're talking about removing a carbon sink. There's all kind of detrimental effects to clear cutting a forest. All right, and that's all I have. Thank you very much for your attention, and invite you to ask me any questions you might have. Mike Davis here, myself, and Rachel are here from the commission, and we'll be over at that table over in there. Oh, and Kevin, I see you in the back there. So any questions you might have about what we do and any other things that the city has that we know about that have in the pipeline, we'll be happy to tell you about.